Hey everybody. Well, I posted this week's general energy reading and so on, and it looks like this week is going to be easing us into the beginnings of this new cycle. Okay, so in other words, what's going on with the karmics is happening presently. Um, some are further along than others, obviously, and they're really, really hating life right now. So, what we saw last week basically is a letter to the karmics about how ironic it is that this secret war that you had going on with the collective is now resulting in you falling from grace while simultaneously having to watch the collective rise up. The hatred and the guile and everything that this person or people feel is just something else, man. So that's how that week ended, and into all the way up till the end of today, Tuesday. Um, Basically, the energy has also been carrying over from last week as far as being extremely karmic-y in terms of its description and what's going on behind the scenes. So that's no different from Monday and Tuesday. So, I mean, the accuracy and everything else so far, the way that these runes are really, I guess you could say, verifying one after the next, you know, throughout the week and everything else is, I love it when I see things like that. I mean, it just helps me. At some point in your time doing these things. And I've been intuitive my whole life, about this, that, the other thing. It's not always the case, and sometimes things get past me because I always fall in love or want to believe the image of somebody that I have painted in my head about them. In other words, their absolute best potential. I fall in love with their potential, and I had to learn that lesson the hard way. So not the real person as they are, but the person they could be. Um, Now, some would argue, of course, though, who am I to say that they should be this, that, or that? No, these are things, the qualities I know that they have within them. And even though they're pretending at this point, in other words, they're shape shifting, trying to fit in, this is how some of them actually survive. These are the kinds of people I've dealt with. Literally, they're shapeshifters. And they present themselves in a certain way. And now that particular way is exactly the kind of thing that, you know, you as a collective may be looking for in somebody who's spiritual, somebody who, um, seems more, they seem deeper, okay? They're not just shallow, not just the outside kind of a person, but in reality, that's precisely who they really are. Um, it's sad and it's frustrating that you have to go through relationships like that. It helps to give you an unsatisfying overall perspective of relationships in general. It doesn't have to be romantic, just in general. Because people don't know how to be authentic. They don't know how to be real. They don't know how to be honest and truthful and transparent. Everybody's got an agenda. Everybody's got something they're hiding. And it's frustrating. But that's what we're looking at here. Okay? So, what is the energy that we're looking at now? Well, we're looking at the energy of Canes. That's the overall energy. Let me see if I can get this. There we go. Alright. So Canes is about creativity and things of that nature. Okay, so inspiration, the light bulb, the torch, the flame, the illumination, wisdom, knowledge, clarity, vision, as well as creativity, inspiration, positivity, one's technical abilities, their abilities to work with their own hands, on their own mind. Inspiration, I already said that. Positivity, I think I already said that. Technical abilities, did I say that? I don't know. Alright, fire of life. Okay, that inspiration that we get from the root chakra. Okay, or not the root chakra, excuse me, from the, not the solar plexus chakra, or the sacral chakra, the sex chakra. Orange in color, okay, and the frequency rises the higher you go up through that chakra tree as well. Alright, now when I do my meditations each day, instead of actually aligning with the 7 typical chakras, I actually do 9. I have 2 additional ones, one above, one below. Okay, and that is basically my Earth Star chakra and my Soul Star chakra, which is about my crown chakra. And the Earth Star chakra is below your feet. Its color is brown. The color that I usually use for my Soul Star chakra is like the sun. It's bright white, blinding. Okay, so as your crown chakra is basically lavender in color. Okay, whitish, purplish. Alright. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. Now, the past energy for this was the god Tyre. Now, Tyre is in the reverse in this particular pull. So for that, it talks about the blocked journey, listlessness, questionable motives. Okay, somebody whose creativity's been blocked, so their creative or sacral chakra is being blocked, or it's closed because of their own activities. So yes, by your decisions, the things that you do and don't do, and of course, what time you spend in actually aligning your chakras each day, if you do that at all. I do that every day. It's the first thing I do. And perhaps I'll go over that, how to do that at some future point, if anybody's interested. But if they're out of alignment and everything else, and other people, other authors, people who deal more in the realms of science than spirituality per se, although they've married it together, they're not as close-minded as science is, to spirituality, and a lot of spiritual people are to science. There's that middle ground, and his name will come to me shortly. I cannot remember. I lost all my books in my move and everything else, and I had a huge library at one point. Very difficult to find books, but I'm slowly building it back up. So, again, that's neither here nor there. So the present energy is that of the goddess Freya, but unfortunately it is in the reverse. Usually the goddess of love and war, magic. She's got a lot of titles. But in the reverse, since it's not about abundance and so on, it's disappointments and greed. So loss, financial and physical problems of all types, arguments with those around you, losing your assets, your property, your material items, loss to hold on to, basically failing on many, many levels, feeling burnt out, feeling a sense of atrophy, you're just withering away, discord, cowardice, stupidity, dullness, poverty, slavery, and bondage. That's the present energy. So as you can tell, we're still carrying into a description of what's going on in terms of both the description of the people in question as well as what those people are actually literally going through. So that's what we're talking about. We're talking about somebody who is in this particular state. And long story short, what this particular reading is really all about is basically somebody who is slipping into both slavery, financial, and material losses. Somebody who is constantly making the wrong decision, going in the wrong direction. Somebody who is in a state of fear and mental paralysis. Somebody who is suffering privation on a vast scale. Okay, that's who we're talking about, up till tomorrow. So it's been letting us know that even though we may not be seeing it, or somebody who's done us really, really wrong on so many levels, they are really paying the price right now. I mean, everything that they threw at you, they are experiencing and more right now. And they're not liking it. Believe me, they are not liking it at all. Alright, so the obstacles and challenges is that of Othala, and Othala is also in the reverse. This is my ancestral rune. Now, Othala in the reverse talks about recklessness. It talks about, again, frustration and legal problems of all types. It talks about all kinds of hassles, just a lack of general order in any area of their life right now, a sense of totalitarianism. And this could be, in their own mind perhaps, or this could literally be in some type of group where somebody is trying to do damage control and basically he's got a complete lockdown on this person and perhaps some of the other people in this group. So there's slavery also, and poverty as part of the challenges. These are the things you're probably going to go through. Now, I know this is difficult. Again, I was homeless for a while. I know what these things can feel like. Now, this is the kind of stuff that you wanted for the collective. The collective was allowed to go through some of this to toughen them up. Now you're going to experience it since you wanted it so badly for us, and you're not going to like it at all. And I don't want to, stick my tongue out at you and say, well, you shouldn't have done it. But really, this is going to be a lesson you're not going to forget anytime soon after this. So I hope you use it as such. Because to fight against karma is, well, it's impractical. I'll just leave it at that. It's not going to help you. It's just going to make it far worse, actually. Alright. So, Othal in the reverse is the obstacles and challenges. These are the things that the karmics are literally going to have to overcome, get through, if they want to get to the other side and actually start their work in terms of their shadow work and overcoming their built-up karma. They have to chip away at every one of those things that they've, added to their life, if you will, so to speak, or the hole that they've dug for themselves. They, have to fill it up slowly to get to a point where they can get out of that hole. And the only way they can do that is to turn a new leaf, to do the right things, to learn their lessons, Can't fool the universe either. So if you're just pretending at this, like I said, you're going to be tried multiple times along the way. So you cannot fool the universe. Your best bet is to simply understand that there is a reason for this. And at the very least, if you want to look into something, find out what that reason is. What's the necessity of that reason? Why is that so important for me? Why did I have to learn that harsh lesson? And you'll see, there's reasons for these things. And I understand when you're going through it how hard it is. And it's the last thing you want to hear, that there's a reason for your suffering. You just want to stop suffering, right? And you want to see the same for other people. But that's just not the way life works sometimes. So your best bet is to understand, to figure out what that lesson is, and to apply whatever corrections are necessary so you can get out of that hole as quickly as possible. That is my advice. You don't have to listen, of course. Some of you have been described many times as being headstrong and just your ego bigger than the door. So that's up to you. Alright, so your help and advice is that of Gibo, but Gibo 2 is in the reverse. So what this is really letting us know is the nature of your problem, so you can start addressing it. And it has to do basically with the roots of an emotional manner or nature, something that you have not resolved yet, typically from your childhood. Some wrongdoing, maybe not enough love or care. It could be a multitude of things, but it's helped you to develop into a person who decides things based on that unresolved issue. And those things that you have decided upon are very harmful, and they're not good for your soul at all. It's chipping away your longevity at your energy levels, and it's opening you up to spiritual parasites and even worse. You know, I know it sounds nasty, but it is nasty. So, Gibo also talks about greed and loneliness again. So, greed is a overall encompassing energy in this reading today, but so is loneliness. It talks about dependency. So, somebody who's been very dependent on other people, for their, I don't know, for justifying who they want to believe that they are internally, instead of just being who they are, and then the right people will come into their life. It's harder to do, but it's necessary to be authentic in this world, or things simply are just going to start to unravel at some point, and that's what's happening here. Okay? So Gibo in the reverse also talks about somebody who feels like they're over-sacrificing. This could be a case of self-martyrdom, where you're martyring yourself everywhere you can so that you can say, oh, look at me. I'm this, that, and the other thing, and I helped them, and I saved them, and I did this, and I did that. If you're doing it for the sake of mankind, as the Bible already addressed, then you're not doing it for the right motives or reasons, and you're not going to be rewarded as a result of that. You do those things because they need to be done, because it's a necessity, because it just is something that you have the ability to do, and you're there, and you do it. You're not doing it and saying, hey, everybody, look, I'm about to do this, or everybody watch me, I'm over here doing that. And I'm not putting anybody down who has done that on occasion. I mean, sometimes it's almost unavoidable when you're doing something, somebody else sees and says something, and it's like, well, now the jig is up. But for the most part, you still had the right intention when you went into it. You weren't doing it to bring attention to yourself and your actions. You just wanted to help another human being. And that's the kind of mindset, heart set, that we should have when we're doing these things. So they're experiencing privation, and bribery is also an energy in this. So with Gibo in the reverse, there's a lot of potential scenarios I could paint with this. And since there's a multitude of people out there, it's impossible to single in on any one thing. But I know how these things relate to my life. I know how they relate to other people I know of in my life. I can't say for anybody who's out there viewing how this is going down for you specifically. Now, the future outcome is that of Lagos in the reverse. Now, Lagos basically talks about things that are of water. And water in divination always reflects basically emotions, emotional content. And that's good and bad emotions, just emotions in general, but also things that also touch upon that, such as a person's, ability to fantasize, conceptualize, dream, their intuition and psychic abilities even. Now in reverse, again, it talks about greed. Now we've heard that 3 times in this reading already. So somebody who is exceptionally greedy, this is their reading, okay? Somebody who's also very much in their temptations. Somebody who is acting against their own conscience. They know that what they're doing is wrong. Maybe they want to change, but every single time that there's a temptation, or they see that shiny object, there they go once again, and they feel guilty again. So this person is also making a lot of poor decisions, using very poor judgment. This is all the energy that's reflected from this stone. So they're also feeling confused. They are in a state of lacking any type of creativity of their own, so they're borrowing other people's work and so on, calling it their own. Feeling in a rut, perhaps. Somebody very fearful, doing circular motions, spinning their wheels, wanting everybody to think that they are indeed very busy and everything is okay in their world, but in fact it's exactly the opposite is the reality. So meaningless motion, avoidance, somebody with an avoidant attachment personality, and those are very difficult to deal with. They really are, especially if you are empathic and you're dealing with, want to have and as well as express, emotions and as well as ideas with people to truly connect. And they're not capable of that. They push away anytime that somebody gets close or they get close. So that's, I know what that's like too, and it's not very comfortable. It's going to break your heart. I'll just leave it at that. So somebody who may be withering into some state of madness or obsession, despair, perversity, sickness, and suicide, emotional uneasiness. Somebody, who's really, really experiencing some of the worst. And as we'll see tomorrow, or for tomorrow's reading, which is actually today. This is Monday and Tuesdays, but it's actually whenever it is you see that, so it's not really per day. There is no, if you will, time in reality, especially when we're talking about things dealing with intuition. But we can get a sense of when these things are going to happen within our timeline, because for us, it is basically just like watching, a parade go by. We watch one float after the next go by, rather than if I was in a higher plane of existence, I could see the whole thing beginning from end simultaneously. To give you some perception. It's more difficult to explain than that, but it helps us to conceptualize to some degree. So anyways, we see that despair, slavery, loss of property, and abundance of all types. Somebody is making bad decisions, going in the wrong direction, suffering from mental paralysis, uh, just in a very nasty, low vibrational state right now. Okay? Uh, I wish I didn't have to keep talking about this, but if that's the energy that's brought to me, this is what I have to bring forward. So I know it's not as palatable as hearing that you're going to be a lotto winner and all that, but it is what it is. So with that being said, stay victorious out there, collective. Hang in there. You guys are literally almost right there at the point where you can grab that tape before you go over that finish line. So kudos. I'll see you guys again soon. Peace out.